Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art, a show that explores the creative process by inviting artists to join us in a chat about their life and their work. I'm David Schrader.
And I'm Linda Scheller.
And we have a wonderful guest today. Some folks fondly refer to him as Mr. Modesto. But we have a more formal introduction. So do you have that with you, Linda?
Right
you
here.
Start us out.
Chris Murphy is the president and CEO of Sierra Pacific Warehouse Group and publisher and founder of Modesto View Incorporated. Chris grew up in Modesto, worked globally in the cycling industry, Raleigh, SRCK, specialized, returning to Modesto in 1996. He's the founder of the Modesto Historic Graffiti Cruise Route, Legends of the Cruise Walk of Fame, Modesto Rockin' Holiday, the Modesto Music History Organization, and co-founder of the Modesto Area Music Association. Chris is a founding member of the Graffiti USA Museum and serves on the board for Modesto Band of Stanislaus County, Gallo Center for the Arts, Visit Modesto, and belongs to Modesto Rotary. Named Citizen of the Year by the American GI Forum, Chris was honored for his community involvement. Chris is married to the artist, his wife, Rebecca, since 1985, and has two daughters, Madison and Abigail, both graduating from Modesto High and UC Berkeley, and now married and living in Modesto. He is a hobby artist and a lead singer and guitarist for his band, Third Party, who donate their performances to nonprofits.
Wow, that's a mouthful. We need to get this guy on here and just find out what's going on. Yeah. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Welcome. There you are. Put you in the hot seat right here.
Always got to set the list on that stuff.
Yeah, it is. Oh, what's happening? You're frozen. Is your yeah. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, we can hear you, but your the video is freezing. It's jumping.
Let's refresh the window and see what happens.
Yeah. So at least we can hear you. So well, let's just jump into it and start off.
Well, I'm just gonna reach it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in our warm up. Everything was perfect. It was. So there we go. Oh my gosh, that's what's fun about these live shows.
Never a dull moment.
Always enjoy stumbling our way through it here.
Have to think on our feet.
Yeah. There you go. We'll put you on the hot seat. So
thanks, David.
See if we get Chris back here, what he's doing. So I understand you have a role in an upcoming production at Prospect Theater. So tell me a little bit about that while we're waiting.
Small part in Taco Jesus, which is written and directed by Michael Lynch.
Yeah.
So I am in the chorus. I am woman one. She's also called Velma Reed. So we've started rehearsal and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. You were giving me a preview of kind of the dialect you're talking. What was that? What's your...
Oh, well, I ain't got nothing else to say about that.
So that's her character, huh? Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And how about your photography, David? What are you doing in that?
Working on putting together a large photo contest for the beginning of next year. Yeah. So
good.
I'll be asking people to support us by sponsoring specific awards. So instead of just having a one size fits all first, second, third prize, I'm asking organizations or groups to sponsor specific awards. For example, Dawn's Framing Shop would sponsor the best black and white photograph, for example. the Audubon Society. Okay, let's, might sponsor a bird picture. So let's see, it looks like Chris is back with us.
That's crazy.
Oh, yay.
There you are.
It was still working. I just fired it up again. I'd started, stopped, wife screw around with it. So we'll get it back.
Well, wonderful. Jeez. We were just talking about how wonderful it is to do live shows. Something is
Hey,
always
no doubt about that. I mean, we live on these things.
So before we get started into the meat of everything here, the most obvious thing that shows up is where you are. This is a studio. My gosh.
It is kind of. It is. I mean, a lot of stuff. I'm a huge Beatles fan, huge music fan, huge concert fan. You know, I got the stuff from old Fleetwood Mac, 1977, the Tubes, big Tubes fan from the Bay Area back in the day, and still a big Tubes fan. And but it's just music is incredible. It takes you all the music you loved in high school, college. I grew up with the Beatles. I mean, I was a little kid, you know, surrounded by high school kids. So, you know, music is front and center of my life, and it's, you know, my greatest, you know, things that I appreciate doing, and it's a lot of fun to do it with people too. You know, I've got my kids, you know, kids like music, and you know, I've got a good band that we love to play, and so I think music's really kind of the center point, just like the arts and entertainment. I think live music in particular, really changes a community and brings people together, and everyone's got their stories. I mean, everyone knows where they were when they heard a certain song, or, you know, did something, or when they were cruising and what Peter Frampton song was playing on a Friday night or whatever. It all connects.
Yeah.
Now, having grown up here and you've traveled widely, do you feel that Modesto has an especially rich musical community, and has for some time?
We're at a crossroads right now. I mean, COVID did some serious damage to what we had. You know, we have an amazing amount of live music talent here in town, which is key. You know, we've lost a couple of venues. You know, so Ralston's Goat's going to reopen as the Goat. They're going to be hosting live music. You know, previously we had the Fat Cat and Heroes, but we need some of those mid-sized venues. And now Rancho Fresco is stepping into that. But we have a rich pile of talent, whether it's indie, country, you know, classical, you know, a lot of good jazz musicians. Jamie Dubberly lives here in town. He's a Grammy award-winning trombonist. I mean, so we have this really cool thing. And then, you know, you exist with Moban during the summertime. And, you know, the only reason Moban exists is because of music in the schools. And so it goes all the way back to when, you know, my grandma was a concert pianist for the Cleveland Symphony. You know, my mom was a piano player. I learned how to play piano when I was 5, begrudgingly. And then I didn't really appreciate it until Elton John came out. Then I started.
Hey, you're talking my language there.
That's it. Yeah. So Elton John got me back into piano. You know?
Yeah.
But I learned to play trumpet in 3rd grade, and that's where Moban comes from. I mean, most cities that don't have arts and music in the schools can never even think about having a Moban, where there's 130 musicians that know how to play brass and woodwind instruments. You know.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're so lucky.
You grew up here. Were you born here?
No, I was born in Yosemite. So I was born in, my parents worked for the National Park Service. So, you know, I was born in Yosemite, and then was young kid in Atwater, and moved to Modesto in 1968 for 2nd grade. So, and then became I went to Stanford, Woodrow, Rose Avenue, Somerset, Bayer, and then off to college.
Yeah. So your formative years were here pretty much.
Yeah.
So, and you got into music because music was in your family.
Yeah. And I've always been one sort of band or another, you know. I mean, you know, I played trumpet all through high school, and I discovered bicycle racing, and then bicycle racing took music away for a while, and just I was racing all the time. But then Elton, you know, but we've always played. I've always had friends that played guitar. Rick Green, all the guys, Perry Lacazette, they were the group that I used to hang out with in high school, and we'd play in bands. We had bands called the Buicks, and, you know, around that time, and it was just fun. And then when I went off to Seattle, you know, we moved to Seattle in 1984, and it was just everything was happening in Seattle at the time. You know, Mudhoney, Tad, you know, Soundgarden, Nirvana were all formative times up there. And so we were there in the golden age of grunge, you know, when it was just kind of getting going. And then so just one thing leads to another. Then we're so close to the Bay Area. So back then, we had a lot of great bands back in the 70s and 80s. The Lights, Dave Monday's band, Pete Grimaldi's Raven, and there were so many good local bands we looked up to. But in the city, all the great punk bands, 415, Dead Kennedys, and all the Tubes and all that stuff is what we graduated. I was more punk in high school than classic rock. I didn't get the AC/DC gene or the Foghat gene. I don't have it. And all my friends will be playing, they'll start going, I just go like, oh.
Yeah. So you went from piano to trombone?
No, trumpet to guitar.
And, trumpet, guitar, yeah. And you finally
it's always
settled
kind of the soundtrack. My wife and I loved Seattle, and Seattle had such a great soundtrack at the time, and that's really still part of our lives. We get back to Seattle, we have a place up there, and so we get back as often as we can. And but the music at the time is really what our favorite music between my wife and I. So we really, those early days of the church and Jane Siberry and watching Live Aid in a hide-a-bed for 2 straight days. And
Nice.
Wow. So you sent me a fistload of pictures here. So why don't we start maybe taking a look at some
kind of a little
them?
smorgasbord,
Yeah. So
I love this picture. Just kind of sums it up. I was pretty hyperactive, and my mom wins an award for putting up with me through those years. My mom was a teacher, thank God, or I probably wouldn't have survived. She taught at Wilson here in Modesto. And but it was just I was rambunctious is putting it nicely.
Yeah.
But I was always, I loved to read, loved to explore, loved science, loved math, loved the music. And, it's like my Turn Down Day by The Circle was my favorite song. And I was probably 5 or 6 years old,
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And this is, Marie Gallows is such, she did so much for our community and just understanding what the arts can do. Marie and Grace Lieberman and all these people that championed it, all through that time, Paul Tischer in the performing arts, all of these people understand the value of music and the performing arts and live music and the performing arts. It's so much different. Live music is not sit and listen, jamming to a DJ. I don't get it. I completely go to a concert, and if there's one guy playing with a couple laptops, I seriously don't care. And but Marie was a concert pianist, and her drive to build the Gallo Center, her drive to keep arts, all the way from Curtains Up back in 1998 when they first tried to do it, and then finally got off the ground in 1988, and then got the Gallo Center off. And I was proud to be a part of that early on with Fred and Marie and everybody and Grace, and our friends put the first PowerPoint together, start raising money, and I was really fortunate to spend a lot of time with Marie, and then getting to play her piano in her house was a big honor.
Oh, okay.
And so she's very missed in our community, but she did so much.
The piano in the foyer of the Gallo, was that hers then?
No, that was Lynn Dickerson's. That's a young Chang that was in Lynn Dickerson's house, and Lynn donated her piano to the Gallo Center in the name of Marie Gallo.
I see.
And so this is Marie's living room when she lived out on Mays.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
This is my religion, the Beatles. So, and we had an opportunity when I was a Specialized. We did a program. We were donating a bunch of bicycles to the Great Ormsby Street Hospital called Gosh in London. And so our office in London, we were over there many times a year. And they had a big banquet. And I couldn't attend the banquet, the thank you banquet. And they just said, well, what would you like? And I said, I just really like this to tour Abbey Road Studios. It's a working studio. They do not tour. It's booked solid all the time. And a friend of ours had a contact, Colette Barber, who was the manager at the time. And I got a personal tour through all Abbey Road Studios. And so I went to Studio One, where they recorded All You Need Is Love and all the symphonies, and Studio One's where they did all the soundtracks for Star Wars and everything. And then Studio Two, this one right here, this is where the Beatles recorded basically 88% of everything they ever did was in Studio Two. And the equipment in there is still the equipment that was used by the Beatles. And this particular day, the Radiohead was recording the Bends. and that was a really influential album. And so I had been through Studio 1, 3, and 4, and then back down to here. And I figured, well, he can't kick me out now, so I'm going to play. And I played Let It Be. I played Let It Be on that piano in Studio 2.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
Nice.
pretty magical. And my niece Jennifer, who was 13 at the time, had the wherewithal to get a picture. So, much props to them for having her wits about her to actually capture this.
So you bathed in the essence of the Beatles.
Pretty much. I mean,
And
that
brought it
is
back
one,
with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how much output they had, and for just a short time, they were a band. They were a world. They were just a real functioning recording band for only 7 years, and look what we got.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were done when they were 30. It was over, and they weren't even 30 yet. I mean, I can't think what I did when I was 30 that would be that.
No. Well, you and my brother is talks like you do about the Beatles. Myself being older, it's like I go, yeah, okay, they were really good, but I was past my teenage years when they came out. But anyway, you sound like my brother, so it's wonderful.
Yeah. I was 9 when they broke up. I mean,
yeah.
Oh.
Your formative year, yeah.
So I'd be listening to K5, and K5 did the History of the Beatles weekend in 1972, and I recorded the whole thing on a cassette tape recorder. Because back then, we still thought the Beatles were going to get back together. It was still, it's just a matter of time. It never happened.
So here you are. You're bringing it forward.
Yeah. So this is really fun. We playing music is really fun. We're a cover band, and we try to. Like our first gigs were for Lakewood School Blue and White Auction. Our very first show we were the Wonders, and we played That Thing You Do for an Academy Awards themed murder mystery. And that's when Gary Nelson and I got together, and Gary was my neighbor. And then now, 25 years later, we're still rock and rolling, playing. We're playing downtown in the Plaza on August 11th, down in the Music Plaza series for free. So I'll be down there rock and rolling on Friday the 11th. So, we play a lot. We play as much as we can. Bands, we played for, Lakewood. We played for Make-A-Wish. We've played for various fundraisers in town. And it's always fun to do that. We've played for the Community Hospice Gala. And it's just a way for us to give back and, take that money that they'd be paying a band, and they can put that towards, their foundation or their organization or their mission. It's if we can give this part, it allows them to put more money towards their operations and their accomplishments in the community.
Right. Well, this is one of my favorites because I took this picture. And this took place during one of the Porch Fest events.
Yep.
And
that's right there in my driveway.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate. We have a nice big porch. It's a covered porch. So, ever since Rui and Trisha and Kate created the Porch Fest, we've been big supporters, and we're in head first. We kind of do music all day, on our street, because there's only 4 houses on this side of the creek. So we kind of need to stack the deck to get people to come across the creek. There's 60 houses that are doing it in Magnolia. So we got to try harder.
You got to try harder. So, you've played with these same people apparently for a number of years. Introduce us. Who are these people you play with?
Gary Nelson is on guitar. Gary Nelson's a local attorney, and Gary is a couple of years ahead of me as a Downey High School guy. Brett Hughes, Brett and I knew each other in high school and college, and then he's a drummer. He's a chiropractor in town. Then Chad Johnson is the surveyor of Stanislaus County, and it's kind of nice because we can go for a month or two without playing. And we can show up and play at the gig and play for 3 hours like we never skipped a beat. And it's really good to have people that you kind of know how each other think and how they play. And we trade off different songs. We'll learn new things for a gig and forget them right after. And we were playing a National Night Out last week, and it's like we haven't played Eddie Money 2 Tickets for Paradise in 20 years. So we just did it. And it's like, oh, all right, we still know that song.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. That you talked about the Beatles just being together for 7 years and producing this. How long have you been together with these guys? I mean, this is a lifetime.
1988. We did that was the first Wonders we did for Lakewood School. My wife and I created the Blue and White Auction to raise money for the computer schools and the art teacher at Lakewood School where our kids went. And so it's a great way to raise money to help, accomplish some educational goals on campus there.
So here's another one of you at
Yeah. So then, and yeah, so
First
that,
Friday. Yeah.
yeah, that's downtown on for the graffiti nights and everything. And I'm a big Rickenbacker fan. Needless to say, it's like if you play Beatles, you have to have Rickenbacker guitars.
Okay. And this was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
You said you did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a notebook scribbler, and so most of my notes through school were mostly pictures and drawings, and it's probably it's the thing my wife Becky gives me the baddest time about. She says you should really try to hone your art, and I do it just so much in on the side and just sketches and doodles and ideas and brainstorms for it, but she wants me to explore it more. And now that we've got grandkids and all that stuff. It is probably time to do more art. But I love making art as well as performing art too. And it's always Beatles were my always subjects, and I probably copied every single Doonesbury comic when they were out every Sunday. I'd duplicate the comics and big. I have just piles and piles of artwork from Fleetwood Mac to you name it. Phantom of the Paradise when it came out.
So how old were you when you did this? You said you were quite young.
I was in high school, so I was probably 14, 15 years old.
Okay. Did you ever
it's kind of like I was dabbling in pixelation a lot. I liked all the pointillism.
Oh, pixel. Yeah.
So
okay.
You kind of go through that thing and get super fine stroke pens, and I like those old really ultra fine flares. Now I'm addicted to the ultra fine Sharpies. There's like the best pen ever created by anybody.
Okay.
Jim Christensen and I will sit and sketch, and Jim pulls me into it. So whenever Jim's not drawing, he'll put out a couple pads of paper, and some of mine actually made it up onto the wall of the barking dog.
Yeah. Oh, really?
But yeah, Jim's really good at sit down. Here's a pen.
Oh, cool. So we're jumping around here a little bit. So tell us about this picture.
Yeah, this was. I mean, just to put stuff in a little perspective, I grew up, writing code. I loved computers. I loved advertising. I raced bicycles in high school and college. And then I ended up getting a job in the cycling industry. And that took me to Seattle. That's why my wife, Becky, and I moved to Seattle. We built the Raleigh Bicycle Factory up there. Then I worked for a Japanese company, SR Sakai out of Tokyo. And that took me to Asia all the time. And then for Specialized, I was the global marketing director. So I was everywhere all the time. I was gone way too much for a guy with a young family and a daughter. And so it'd be like, South America, Japan, Europe for 3 weeks straight, come back for 2 weeks, then dealer tours, trade shows. And so I probably had the best job in the world for a single guy. But, when my youngest daughter, Abigail, was born, it was too much. And so then I moved back to Modesto to join our family's business, which is warehousing and logistics. So we are a supply chain, and we were the part of the people that kept everything moving through COVID. Even though everyone was homesick, we had to keep going and get the food chain delivered. But the point is that I had a job that really, I'm good at the logistics business, but it's not my first love. And so by having a job that's not your hobby, because when I was in the cycling business, it was bikes, free time, bikes, where we travel, bikes. And so now it's like, now I can actually enjoy hobbies, which is music or getting involved in the community. And I kind of came back. I can honestly, I didn't like Modesto growing up here. I was one of those that couldn't wait to leave, even though I had a great time. I mean, I couldn't knock it too bad, but when I came back, I was like, I came back with a different set of eyes, having traveled so much. And having spent so many times in different cities, large and small, I kind of looked at what some of the possibilities were. And I was first shocked that because graffiti had disappeared when I was gone. So they canceled the whole thing while I lived in Seattle. So I came back to Modesto going, what the heck? You're not cruising anymore? I mean, I missed all of that closure, so I was like, well, we got to get this back. And then the State Theater was coming into a new turn. So I became part of a new board that was kind of tasked with, saving it again, like John Griswold did. It was time to do it again. And we spent some time, and my job allowed me to have time to get back involved in the community. And we raised money for the Griseda Park Playgrounds in 1998, which still are there today. And then getting involved in the community just opened my eyes a lot. And so that's when I started putting the webcam up downtown when the Covell Theater came down. We filmed that, and then we started filming the 10th Street Place go up, and that led to Modesto View. So people were saying, what's going on down here? What's going to happen? There's going to be a theater. There's going to be a Fuzio's. What's around the corner? So we became the question and answer thing for the downtown redevelopment. And then that led to Modesto View. So it's basically a hobby that's out of control. And we're the largest magazine in Central California. We print over 61,000 copies a month. And it's something that we just have done because we need a positive narrative. We need to show that we have civic pride. And David, you guys know, and what you deal with, you talk to people all around, and people just bitch and complain all the time, but they're not involved. They don't pay attention. The same ones who say, I didn't know that happened, are the ones who don't really pay attention. And there's a lot of people in town who never even go downtown and haven't experienced it. So there's so much to do.
There is. Well, let me derail you here a second. And tell us about this picture specifically.
Well, this was our first. This is kind of getting back to the State Theater. State Theater was in bad shape, and so Pete Baker, Evan Porges, and I basically created a thing called Project Spitshine. And we went in and cleaned the carpets, cleaned the seats. We built new dressing rooms, we built a new ticket counter, and we just said we have to get it to this next level so that we can start raising money and showing people. And we brought the association to town, and it was it had a big Elvis thing, a big thing with a feeling groovy thing. And so we had Elvises serving cocktails, and so that's my fro, and that's the Elvises serving drinks, and all the stuff we've done. It has to be fun. People want to be involved. If it's a volunteer committee, if it's a school project, you have to make it fun. And if you make projects fun, more people want to get involved. Yeah, there's a lot of fundraising. There's a lot of heavy lifting. But when you make an event fun, it brings more people along. And I really believe that. And so by making these crazy, silly things like this, allowed us to have a lot of fun, and then raise a lot of money at the same time. And now Mike Zagaris and his team have taken it to a whole new level. But all these things are building blocks that got the state to a particular spot that someone else can then do the next leg of the relay.
Do the next leg, yeah.
Yeah. So this was one of our early fundraisers. So it was a whole lot of fun.
Well,
and my wife and I, when we got married, our dance was Never My Love, and so I got to dance with my wife in the aisleway at the State Theater to the association playing Never My Love. So that was one of my reasons of bringing them.
Great story.
Oh, nice.
So here's another one of your projects.
This is Chris Rickey came to town, and Chris was a promotions manager and an event manager for Clear Channel back in the day. So he was doing Summerfest for B93, and we did a big project to raise money for the Grisada Park playgrounds. And so he brought Sixpence None the Richer and Julie Plug down for a free concert at Mancini Bowl to raise money for the playground. And so Chris and I went to lunch after that. He was living in Sacramento at the time, and he just says, do you think this would be a good community for me to move and raise a family and be a part of this? And I told him it was. And he came to town, ultimately started X Fest, and a lot of the different things you see today. Chris is a great promoter, a great visionary. So in 2000, we were sitting at Harvest Moon having lunch. He says, well, let's make a music awards. It's like the Grammys, Black Tie Music Awards. We'll do it we did it at the Doubletree the first year because we didn't know how big it would be. We illegally stuffed 300 people in Club Max and gave 6 awards. Our first Lifetime Achievement Award was for Homegrown. And back in the day, this is 2000, and Shelley Streeter won our country award, and Flying Blind won the best pop band. So that gives you a frame of where we're all working. And so now here we are in 2023, getting ready for the Mamas at the State Theater. And we've been able to celebrate some wonderful people, from Marie Gallo, Grace Lieberman. This is what we look like today, outside the Mamas before the show starts. We were honored Chester Smith, Ernie Buccio. We've a lot of folks that have really made a big difference. Michael also of Three Dog Night, and really show how exciting the music categories are. And every year there's this new talent, there's new people bubbling up. And the one thing is, Granddaddy, made some of the best music ever here in town. And they were touring, they'd be playing the Dirty Duck on a Friday night here, and 5 days later, they'd be playing for 60,000 people in Brazil. So it's, it's crazy, the musicianship we have in town, and it's good. So, we host this event every year, and it's just something that, it's free for the musicians just to have a night to celebrate and have everybody in one room and, celebrate each other,
Wonderful. So another thing that you've been involved in off and on for many years is graffiti.
This is like the biggest no-brainer in the world, in my opinion. I mean, George Lucas has given us this $10 billion gift of making a movie about our city and our people. And when I moved home, that was the biggest shock to me, is that it was like Voldemort. I mean, this is the thing you can't talk about. It's like, are you kidding me? This is the one thing that people know about us everywhere. My daughter got invited to a prom in South Africa. And so we flew over there for 72 hours, met the family. I said, we're from Modesto. And the guy went, Modesto. And they had a copy of American Graffiti. This is Durban, South Africa. And so,
wow.
And this is what we're known for. And and it's so funny how it's so easy. We are a classic city. We're that small town we're the big town that feels like a small town. So everything about those classic years says a lot about our community. We've got great volunteerism, great people. We've got a small downtown that's easy to manage. So it's just made for graffiti. And so it's so funny that we didn't really take advantage of it. So in 2010, I was talking to Greg Nyoff, the city manager at the time. And I said, why don't we take 10th and 11th streets and make it into the cruise route, which is the route they originally dragged, the drag on 10th. Drag on 10th was the thing, down to O Street by Burgess. And so the city said, yeah, let's do this. And so we took and put 25 signposts. We put markers on the city. Each one of the signposts has a little video, and it goes back to a legend story. And what I wanted to do was tell the story behind the story. And that's why graffiti is so special. It's not so much George's movie. It's the people in the movie and the story he told about them. And that's what, when I approached George about this project, he liked it because it wasn't about him, which he doesn't like to talk about. And it was telling the stories that he told. And that's what he was really interested in. And this is my daughter, Abigail, who's my frequent cover victim. And we are recreating that moment in time that Kurt gets out the car and sees the blonde and the T-Bird.
Yeah.
And so,
I was going to say, that looks like a Thunderbird.
yeah, so this is, later on. So, Abby's again our car hop on the cover of the magazine. So this is when George came back to town as the Grand Marshal. And we had really got a good chance to interview him and talk about, record store shopping at Harley's on J Street, and, talking about what really excited him. And that was a challenge for me. It's like, how do you interview? It's like, what would I ask Paul McCartney? It's like saying, what would I ask George Lucas? He's already asked and answered, how did you cook up Star Wars? That's a dumb question to ask. But it's like, why did you put those songs in that order? Or why did you choose the music? Or how did you choose the music? Because that's what he really wanted to talk about, was the 45s. And graffiti was originally going to be a series of music videos, each set to those songs. So he was really wrapped up in the music of that movie before the movie became the Bee. And that's just a really interesting side of George Lucas, was how much he loves the music at that time and how much it's a foundation of what he does.
Wow.
Which ties back to us here, our rock and roll scene. We've got Kent Whit and the Downbeats, Modesto's first band. This is a great moment, giving him the first Walk of Fame marker. There's that marker that's right below that picture right there, is right there on the sidewalk in 10th Street Plaza right now. And so it's a way for us to honor our people, honor our history, and more importantly, make it interesting for the next generation. It's like, I get people come up to me and go, I don't want to see any more tail fins. I'm sick of this. It's like, guys, you're missing the point. It's not about having a 57 Chevy. I don't have a classic car. I'm as into graffiti as anybody, but I have a bunch of vintage guitars, but I don't have a classic guitar, and I love what it says. It's like Cars Land. You go to Cars Land at Disneyland, the kids love that area, but they've never seen Route 66. So it really doesn't matter if you have a car, Connect car, if a class is 62 or not. The art, the music, and all of those things are just fundamentally interesting and fun. And then the pop culture that goes along with it. If you think about it, without American Graffiti, there'd have been no Fonz, no Mork and Mindy, because if American Graffiti had failed, Happy Days would not have been green lighted, because it was just a vignette in Love American style. And then without without Happy Days, there would have been no Laverne and Shirley, no Lenny and Squiggy, no Mork and Mindy. I mean, you think about how, and then ultimately he funded Star Wars from the success of Graffiti. So the success of Graffiti is so much more than just that film. It's what power it gave to George to basically commando and take over Hollywood with the next movie.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yeah. This is
I
just
love this
another.
mural. This is one of our favorites. John Black and I put a series of murals up in town. They started with the Deuce Coupe at 13th and J. Then we put the 57 Chevy up on the Chamber of Commerce. Then Ella Yates had just come from a mural project in Ireland, and she painted this in 3 days right there in the alleyway next to Rancho Fresco. And then there's one, you got one down on Neville Brothers. There's one up by the Sonic Drive-In. And there's a series of graffiti-themed murals all over town that kind of talk about our classic story. And this is just a great one. We recreated one of our covers, the Lucas statue with Aaron Durr and Alyssa Poppin. And so this was a recreation of this one had the State Theater behind it. So, and Joe Barrett and I were down busking. So we had our guitar cases open. We're out there singing in front of the mural one day. it was by the way, busking is legal in this town. You can sit there with a guitar case in the corner, or you can busk all you want.
I didn't know that.
That's a hidden thing.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a license, huh?
You do not have to have a license. You can busk. You cannot go up and ask people for money. You can sit there and play music unamplified with a guitar case, and it's completely legal in our town.
Great.
So here's jumping around again to another one of your projects, two projects here.
Yeah. So Modesto View started out as a webcam back in 1987. And so we were filming the downtown redevelopment project down there. It was called Plaza Cam originally. And then it became Modesto View. Then in 2006, we started publishing the print magazine. And so, it's just kind of gotten bigger and the circulation's gotten bigger. During COVID, we increased our home mail circulation to 41,000 copies delivered by U.S. mail. And we just left it there. And we just kept it at that amount, post-COVID. And then it's always out on time. I am never late. I hate publications that say they're July and they show up on the 20th. We are always out on the 1st. So, and we're online and digital. That's just my pet peeve as a late magazine. And so, and we've had a lot of fun. We featured, we try to, like this last month, we did, it was back to school. So we got a bunch of our neighbor kids and had them doing the Abbey Road crosswalk in front of Wilson School, which was, and so you kind of take and just, it's a big mashup. And we do big May the 4th. We always have a great Star Wars. Our graffiti cover is one of our favorites. October is Halloween, and we're just all over it. We usually have little Easter eggs of Haunted Mansion and, with our mansion and all that neat stuff. So it's really a way for us to talk about a positive string of messages. It's introducing the people that are doing something in the community. It's finding the stuff that doesn't get the airplay or the big clicks. I mean, people need to know about backpack drives or music in the schools, or, that the IB program at Modesto High School is needs more students. These things just aren't being talked about, but they're really, really important in the community. And this month, we featured Gabby Guarini at the State Theater, who, who's, risen up through the food and bev business, is now the exec director of the State Theater. And she's just done wonderful things in the community. And we need to celebrate people like that. We're always up for cocktails. See, there's always some cocktail related thing in what we're doing.
I'm one of the co-hosts for 2 radio programs, KCVP Community Radio.
Yeah.
And one of them is Arts of the San Joaquin Valley. And I featured Jim Johnson a few weeks ago. And so I Googled him, and Modesto View came through for me. So I really appreciate the way you've brought to our attention.
What you said there is really important, because we have an issue with whether it's Tenet or Memorial or these major corporations try to get people to move to town. The first thing they do is they Google Modesto. And so the only way we fight back to the general BS that's out there, I mean, if you look at statistically, carjackings, thefts, meth, all that stuff, we're statistically no different than any other community in the Central Valley, for that matter, or the Midwest. But people just hype on whether this percentage point or this percentage point, but do they have a gala center? Do they have an opera? Do they have a ballet? Do they have Moban? Do they have a music award? Do they have night markets? Do they have, a cruise route? Do they have a graffiti museum, a children's museum? You look at the so many things that are different. It's up to us to populate the internet with those messages versus the negative ones. And so I'm so glad that you found those links to be there at the top, because that's one of our goals, is just to basically populate the Google searches about Modesto. So it's restaurants, dining, music, or something interesting like that before, somebody got knifed, wherever. I mean, that's
right.
We can't forget that stuff's happening, but it's up to us to talk about why it's not the most important thing to be talking about.
Exactly.
I really appreciate it. And I appreciate Modesto View for having columnists that represent a variety of the arts.
Yeah, we get a little flack sometimes because they're not as well written as professional journalism, but we're not. None of us are. I mean, it's Jim Christensen who makes his art. It's Eric Benson who hosts music. It's Patty Castillo Davis. It's Aaron Rowan who books indie music. I mean, these people are champions for what they do, and they happen to be able to write. So I'll take typos and the occasional grammatic mistake for someone who takes the time and invests and gives back to the community like people do. And if we can give them a showcase to do that every month, that's really the goal. And I appreciate what people do. We have a lot of guest columnists a lot. Sam Pierce has been doing poetry for us. Sal has been doing some poetry for us. So, I mean, it's really a good Jillian Wagner's done stuff. So, I mean, we try to really mix it up with a lot of different sides of our community. And more importantly, make sure we're mixing the cultures appropriately. I mean, we want to make sure that we like most recently, the lowrider community is responsible for this cruising ban being lifted. And I think it's one of the most valuable things is to get our cultures together on common things like this, because we're richer when the cultures blend. I really believe it. Still to this day, one of my favorite things, David, that you guys ever did, you and John, was that night at Havana. I thought that was one of the coolest, evenings out there. And I think Brazil should be done. I think you have so many experiences where you've gone and taken pictures. I mean, I have your photo of the RCA Victor store from Havana in my office. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's.
Well, we should talk about the Brazil thing. That kind of went off track for a while. So it's maybe time to get it back one of these
always
days.
Time to put something back on track, right?
Yeah, you're right. So to jump to another thing, this has been always intriguing to me. Ice skating in Modesto.
It's such an easy thing to think about, but this is really one of the things people, there are so many committees and boards and think tanks and groups. How do we get more people engaged? Well, Modesto on Ice brought more people to downtown than anything else. And the people that came downtown are not previously downtown visitors. So we've embraced Modesto on Ice to try to make it one of the things you do by trying to create an après skate. Come down and skate, do your session for 90 minutes, then go to the Brendan, go get dinner, go to Fuzio, go to Trissetti's, or the other way around, go eat dinner and cocktail or happy hour, then go to the ice skating rink, because this is really something that just caught me off guard when I saw the results of how many people, the hundreds and 50,000 people that came to Modesto on Ice, and most of them were not downtown regulars. And to me, that was like, yes, how do we connect with these people more? And how do we engage with them more? Because now they came downtown, had a great experience, had fun ice skating. And that's one more positive person that kind of dug that night. And so I'm really grateful that, Kathy and Dave Halsey, bought it from Jerome, and Andrea Murray to keep it going. And so, every time Kathy says, do you want to sponsor? We're like, we're 100% yes. We're right there with you every year. And I think it's really important to the kind of the culture of downtown and how we get more people. And it just shows what kind of activities we need that kind of broaden the base. Because a lot of people think, this is a bunch of nightclubs. No, it's not. We've got great galleries, great boutiques, great restaurants. There's so much good that happens downtown, but a lot of people never experience it. We did a survey a couple of years ago and out of Vintage Fair Mall, and it was, shocking that 5% of the people we interviewed have been downtown the last 5 years. It's a mind blower. And
Yeah.
people ask the question, why do we talk about downtown so much? I believe that if without a healthy downtown, the cities will decay. And you see where the downtown has fallen apart, the cities just start moving out to the edge. And I think that's a sign of the death of a city, is when you lose your downtown. And so that's why I think all of our focus and all of our talk downtown is important, because it's not just that it's the only place that matters. It's as if it's not healthy, then it's a bad sign for the community.
Yeah, it's a cultural mecca. It's the entertainment center. It's the heart of a city.
You look at cities like Fresno, which has challenges. Put the ballpark down there, and it still is a tough thing. Downtowns need to be safe and walkable and accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people all over the country struggle with revitalizing their downtown.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is. There's no secret sauce really. Safe and walkable is the first thing on anyone's list, and then variety. The more when you see a combination of retail, restaurant, professional, that's where it really lives. And an example of where it can go wrong is we had. And this is kind of sticks with me a little bit. We had this firm came in the town a couple of years ago. You guys are probably all a part of it. All these downtown design charrettes. Hey, let's put sticky tabs on. Well, let's see what you want. And they came up with an imaginary with downtown with all these buildings where it was live, work, retail on the first floor. And this train station at the end, we've got Ace train coming, and we're going to have housing right along the train station. And everyone, great, this is what we want. Then what did we do? We put a drive-through Starbucks at the corner of J and 9th Street.
Right, absolutely.
Dumping drive-through traffic on one of the most congested intersections, and it was completely against what the community wanted at the design thing. So that's a note for our planners, is like, if you're going to get people together, you're going to ask their opinion, and then you get consensus on opinion, and then you don't do it. That's when people lose public trust. And that's why artists and all of us have to keep on standing up so loud, is that, these cultural things are what make the downtown walk. A drive-through Starbucks doesn't do anything, not the knocking Starbucks, but, there's plenty of places for them to be, but, not on a corner that could have been live, work, and housing above it.
Well, you certainly are one of the people who's definitely involved in this. As many of us are, and we all share your feeling about, we have these ideas, we've seen these plans, and yet here we are. And I've talked to people in other communities. What was it? Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Which is one of the model cities that has redone it. I remember talking to someone there, and he said it took 25 years with a persistent vision in order to bring this stuff about. I mean, there's not an easy fix for it.
No, you're not going to come in and just build it all in 1 year. I mean, it's all these little bricks have to go into places. I mean, Asheville, North Carolina is another example.
Another one, right? Those are two, yeah.
There's so many of the places that have this stuff figured out, and we're in the driver's seat here because we're not that big. A few people can make a difference, and that's the magic about Modesto, really. And that's why I like living here. That's why I like working here. Is my kids are back here, and so for me, I mean, nothing I'm doing right now is for me anymore, because I've got plenty to do. But now I've got a grandchild who's 3, and I've got 2 more on the way. So what's my goal? My goal is to find out what's going to make them want to stay here. That's the challenge. We've got to create a place that they all live comfortable. There's enough professional jobs they can work. And I fundamentally believe that the creative cities win. And it's the cities that have the arts and the music that attract the new CEOs or the company that wants to relocate. And that's why I'm always with Dave White and Opportunity Stanislaus, is you have to promote the arts, because that's what motivates the young startup. We've got to keep like the the Bay Tech coding group to know that there's programmers and coders here in town, what Philip Land is doing. So you've got this coding thing, you have this art thing, you have this music thing, you have this in kind of this investment mindset that makes people want to be here. And that's something you can't just do by ordinance. You have to make it so that people want to be here. And it's what made Athens, Georgia so creative at the time. It's what, there are these cities that have their shining moments. And I believe ours is still yet to come, where we can be that place, with now that people can live and work from wherever. And the arts are mission critical for not just my family, for the future families out there. And I love what like Jake and Katie Barber came in, jumped in, and Ryan and Chelsea Foy. I mean, let's do these children's museum. These are game-changing things. That's why we're doing the graffiti museum. Is having a graffiti museum will attract people from all over the world to talk about our graffiti and pop culture, George Lucas history. And that'll draw people from all over the place. And it'll be another one of the first things they read about when they click on our town. It'll be graffiti museum, history of graffiti, children's museum, arts, music, Modesto Symphony. That's what people should be seeing when they Google our town.
Yep.
When did the graffiti museum start? How did that idea come to fruition?
We started working on this about 10 or 12 years ago. We've been looking for a place. We were looking at the old Heroes downtown. We looked at the old bank that became the 833. We realized you can only put 3 cars in the lobby of that old bank. So then we found out that the Lings property was for sale out on North 9th. And John Sanders really had the vision. He was driving across country with his wife, and they went to the Okoboji Car Museum in Okoboji, Iowa. Probably very few people heard it, but this guy who had a ton of money basically built his own kind of man cave, but he recreated the entire city of Spencer, Iowa inside a building. And we saw that and went, this is it. And so that's what we're doing. We're reinventing a 10th Street, a nighttime 10th Street inside this building. It'll be Disney quality. We're working on some architects on it right now. We're going to have record stores, radio stations, theaters, a gas station. So you're basically going to walk into a night in 1962, and the cars will be there as part of a cruise night. But it'll be like walking down Main Street in Disneyland, forced perspective. And it'll change. It'll take you to a different place, and that's what we're working on.
Great.
So it's a work in progress. We've been open in a sense for a year and a half, as we've done 2 years now, as we've done kind of the nuts and bolts, sewer and all that stuff. But now we're getting ready to start to build the magic inside. So we're very excited for what's going to happen. We're already seeing people coming from all over the place. The magazines have picked up on it. The news have picked up on it. We're getting visitors in from Germany that just want to check it out, and they want to see the streets.
I brought some German visitors, actually. Some of my relatives came, and I took them there.
Fun. We had French exchange students here a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the highlights of their day, sitting in a T-Bird and all that stuff. And, and it's not just the class of 62. It's the class of 79. It's the class of 89. It's these kids. It's if you don't like the cars, it's the music or the art. It's the rockabilly. It's the pinup. Whatever it is, there's so many things that this means, and it all ties down. I mean, we can have a whole other subject about the birth of rockabilly in Modesto, which started here in 1938, but that's a whole other session. But we're the home of rockabilly music. We're the home of American graffiti. We have the largest winery in the world. We've got, all of these things are here, and it just, and other cities would die to just have one of them. We've got like 3 things to choose from that we're the biggest and best of,
So here's why. Here's what it's all about. I mean, you are definitely a spokesperson for our community. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So
this was a very nice honor, and
it really is.
And the thing is,
well deserved. Well deserved.
Well, thank you. It comes from seeing opportunities and finding out that I have whether if you have the capabilities. Fortunately, our business and our team at Sierra Pacific is amazing, and I have some of the freedom I have to do some of this stuff. But it's also, saying, look, we can get stuff done, and then we can make things happen. There's accomplishments there. And I think that, by being named that in 2019, I hope it encourages other people to do the same thing, because it is rare. I mean, we live in a place where what I do could not happen in like San Jose. One person just can't say, look, we're going to decorate 10th Street Plaza. We have the trust of the city of Modesto and the trust of the people that know we'll do a good job. And my wife painted this. So,
it's marvelous.
Yeah. So my wife, I asked, my wife is a fantastic artist, and she does this most creative stuff. The house, reason we bought the house we're in is because this giant 900 square foot room that she's turned into a studio. And she does so many different kinds of media and everything, but her painting is fantastic. And I challenged her to give me a Vincent Van Gogh Modesto Arch. And she did. Perfect. And this is one of our covers back in, I think 2013, I think. And then the Modesto Marathon used it for the wine label for the wine that went for the marathon a few years ago.
Great.
It's just neat stuff. We have a lot of raw material. There's a lot of good stuff to work with. If you're a comedian or musician artist, we have a lot of stuff to riff off of here.
True.
Yeah. So we're coming close to winding it down, and so let's get back here so we can. There we go. Kind of wind it all up here. We have many more pictures. A lot of them have to do with your current travels or recent travels.
That is, I firmly believe, that you need to see the world. You've got to see the world to understand it. You really need to experience other cultures. I think that a lot of people who criticize the most have never experienced the things they're criticizing. And I think that's a big part of our problem where we are socially right now. It's everyone's looking it's all about them or them, me. Yes. And it's like, if you don't see how other people live, or you put kids in wheelchairs in a foreign country who have nothing, and mobility is the only thing you have, that makes you think about it different. And you look at, different points of view that other countries have about us. And it changes the way you talk about that, or, our country has an empathy deficit right now. And I think that's kind of why we're getting so tangled up right now. I don't know what it is. I think for some people, freedom just means selfishness. The founding fathers didn't do it for them. They did it for the next generation. And that's the punchline here to all this, is that what you're doing and what I'm doing is all about our kids and how our kids are going to have to take and run with this. I mean, it's like, who's going to be the next generation of the State Theater? These are the things that we have to encourage people to get involved, and so that someone else can run with it. Because you don't want these things to stop, just because one or two people is active in it,
What you said about traveling is interesting, because when my son was younger and he was talking with someone who was very narrow-minded, and he turned to me and he said, "Dad, they need to travel more." It was like, what an insight, for a young kid, just seeing that.
Both my girls studied in France. My daughter Madison studied at the Sorbonne, and my daughter Abigail was in Lyon. And having them just live as French people for a school year is amazing. And I think people need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes for a little bit and learn, because I don't know all this stuff. There's people that are way better musicians, and there are people that are better artists than me. They're better whatever. And, I thrive on that. You always try to work with someone better than you, because you always learn something. The minute you think you stop learning, that's bad.
That's bad. Yeah.
There's always someone who knows. I mean, I go to my employees at Sierra Pacific. I don't have the ideas. These guys do this all day. I learn more from our guys who are loading and unloading trucks and packing boxes every day, because they're the ones thinking the better way to do it. It's not coming from me. My job is to empower that, to say, that's a fantastic idea. Let's do that on the swing shift. It's really simple. Or it's like kids parents learn about recycling through their kids at school.
That's true. That's true. Well, our time is about up, and I just want to say this was delightful. Thank you.
It was.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And thank you.
Good to meet you both.
I want to thank you for all you've done for Modesto and the surrounding area. Really, it's wonderful. wonderful
we
contribution.
appreciate the time. I mean, what you guys do down there at the Miss Gallery, Central Valley Arts and everything, and the Stanislaus Arts, it's really important. And I always look
Okay.
forward to Photo Modesto every year. And hey, let's get the Brazil show going. I mean, that
Yeah,
would be
well, hey, right after we go off the air here, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Photo Modesto.
yeah, I was gonna charge out of John Griswold's post every morning from the Latin Quarter of downtown Modesto.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we'll see you around town. So
Well,
here we
thank you
go.
guys. Have a great
Thank
weekend,
you
everybody.
so much.
You